Their brother's duty was his to perform, so his three sisters theirs. They all had dressed in their Sunday best. Father and mother were filled with a pride that hurt their hearts, a pride that labored their breath. Clara was 20 and a fervent aspirant at St. Joseph's. In self-righteous waddle, she led the family procession, her imagination bedecked with streamers. He would be not just a soldier, but an avenging angel upon the Pacific. Vengeance is mine, the gunboats proclaim, and woe upon him who attacks a sleeping fleet. The Prince of Peace would approve. Mercy and retribution were not incompatible. This she believed to her dying day in the convent 70 years later. Sissy was 17, her vision different. He was no wreaker of wrath divine, but a man to be envied, a witness to the great event, greater than Father's great war. Oh, how she longed to tag along, pencil and notepad to catch the history, every intricacy in the grand effort of repelling empires. Oh, it could have been a Pulitzer story, she lamented, if only she had been allowed to go. This she believed to the day she retired from the Philadelphia Inquirer 50 years later. But Maggie's obsession was Jack himself, little Maggie in her sailor suit, braids thrashing petulantly and her pug nose wrinkled in denial. She had begun the morning in a terrible sulk. Now gray skies had given way to storms. Jack was her world and not to be taken away. Quite natural for a girl of 14 to idolize a brother almost twice her age. The gap between ages was easily explained, the consequences of events beyond one's control. Her father, bold with his truncheon and tolerant of graft, but surprisingly diffident among the ladies, had waited to marry Zoftig Fiewick Dachowski until right before the Kaiser broke hell loose overseas. He fathered a son, wanted more, but was called up and forced to delay his brood of boys. When he returned from France, all girls, 1, 2, 3. Maggie was inconsolable. With heaves of sobs, she flooded Mother's coat. I want no tears when we meet him at the station, Father said. Oh, this will be exciting for him, Sissy said. It will be noble of him, Clara said. He'll be home soon, Mother said. If he goes, he's never coming back, she whined. Since she was 12, Maggie had plenty of fuel for nightmares. Hiding under the dining room table, she had heard Father recount the Great War for Uncle Mac, who had not been. The horrors of the trenches, bodies indistinguishable from the mud, lifeless arms snagged and held aloft by barbed wire, the foamy lips of men melting inside, the inhuman specters of gas masks. Shit, Alf, Mac muttered, and then they left for beer. Blank, black, unholy eyes of goggled phantoms invaded her dreams and followed her everywhere. It was monstrous to send someone as pure as Jack into hell. Laddie Jack, their father called him, husky and red-cheeked like their mother. He could pick her up with one arm, yet averse to mindless violence, had refused to tackle quarterbacks for Roxborough High. The rumble of his laughter made daisies quake. Impatient to express affection, unlike Father, he had married at 19, and so Maggie was barely older than uncles and aunts. Do you hear, Maggie? No tears. Father pried her from Mother and lifted her into his arms. She peered up through the shadow of the L. Its girders, grimed with exhaust, echoed the tires of Crescent's passing traffic. I want those tracks to go away, she muttered, jabbing an accusatory finger. It has to be. Nothing we can do to change it. Where are they taking him? He has to see someone in Philly, and from there to a place where he'll, do exercises and learn to take orders and march around soldier stuff. What for? Well, lots of stuff. Don't tell me, I already know. What if they took him someplace else instead, someplace safe? Her little finger swerved from tracking the line back southeast into the city and chose a perpendicular route through Nowak's barber pole and across the Schuylkill. Tracks only go in one direction, sweetheart. No, they don't. No, they don't. Which brought on more bawling. Mr. Wisniewski, the watchmaker, came to the door of his shop. What is wrong with the little one, Mrs. Houghton? One je smutna. Sad? Sad was breaking a toy. No, devastated, because she felt the coming exile from his house on Dexter, whose front porch sported 3 plaster figurines of mischievous kittens. Magic had a chance to happen there, not Father's nondescript row house on Lower Lyceum. Every inch of Laddie Jack's backyard held wonders. In late summer, hydrangeas exploded blues and purples along the wall of his neighbor, Misty Mayo, the mysterious widow who smelled of a closet full of potions. Mrs. Mayo would clap her hands as she watched her dance in feathered headdress around Laddie Jack's totem pole, a denuded bowl shorn of branches and dotted with green, red, blue, white paint where they had been lopped. She spent hours looking for cryptic faces in the Johnny Jump-Ups, or gathering windfall gifts from the Cohen's peach tree. Toward the back, clusters of spirea gave her a fort from which she chased their beagle, Mr. Freddie. Dexter running athwart the steep hill from the ridge to the river. The yard across the rear retaining wall dropped a good 20 feet and featured a peacock she could tease into screaming, "Wee!" Laddie Jack had bought his house. They bought the house cheap and renovated much of it himself. He was so handy with his tools. Counting on a large family, he partitioned the upstairs into many separate rooms off the long hallway and wallpapered each with a lively circus motif: prancing horses, clowns in headstands, and ball-balancing seals. But the greatest treasure lay behind the small white door in the master bedroom. A narrow stairwell past the steps laden with penny jars and envelopes of canceled 2-cent reds led to the attic, the site of year-round Christmas. The Houghton family reached the Green Lane intersection. The row of tiny shops dimmed by the L faded away, and she could now see the white bridge with its towering spandrel arches. Father put her down and swept his hands up the first of several flights to the bare metal steps. "Time to climb the Matterhorn, all the way to the top," he joked. He glanced at her sideways to see if that would stop her tears. It didn't. Every metallic clank left by the pounding of her temperamental steps sounded like a thunderclap of doom. She remembered a movie on the ridge that concluded with a man mounting a scaffold, pronouncing it was a far, far better thing about something or other. His climb had seemed interminable, so hers. And that's where we have to leave you.